Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the next, hopefully exciting episode of Hands-on SAP Dev with Q Macro, yeah, with me, but with you. That's the whole point, right? I'm really happy to see you here. There's lots of usual suspects, which is great. Thanks all for joining. It's a sunny day in Lübeck, in Waldorf, in Barcelona, in Nijmegen, everywhere. Napit, how is it over there in wherever you are? Where exactly are you in India? Let me know. What about Munich? Yeah, and how is it in Munich, Maxi, in München? Over here, well, I don't know whether I think a lot of you were, morning Pierre, a lot of you were here on the first stream, episode 0. Sunny as usual, thank you Maxi, yes, obviously. And on episode 0, I seem to remember that the background here, where's my finger? The background here, can't figure out where my finger, there we go, was dark, and now it's light. It was a really cold morning this morning on my run, but the sun is sort of appearing. It's still frosty. There's still a frost on the cars. Oh, it's cloudy, Napit, where you are. Okay. Well, there's hardly any clouds in the sky here. Anyway, thank you all for joining. That's wonderful. Today, doesn't seem that long ago since we did a live stream, and in fact it wasn't. It was on Wednesday. So let me know in the comments how you found the live stream on Wednesday, if you managed to catch it, whether that was useful, whether that was a good time. I'm not sure whether we managed to catch any folks in the US. I would like to figure out if I can find where people are based. So obviously I can see a lot of you are putting where you are. What I might do is, and tell me what you think in the comments. Thanks, Pierre. I'm glad, thank you. What I might do in the comments, or rather at the end of a live stream, not this one because I haven't got it ready yet, is a little survey. Again, I did that survey before, that sort of Google form. That worked really, really well. Hey, Gareth, welcome. Volker, welcome. Excellent. REPL for the win. Yes, exactly. It was amazing, wasn't it? The REPL is just fantastic. What was I going to say? Yes, at the end of each of these streams, what I'm thinking of doing is putting a link to a feedback form, which you can fill in there and then if you have time. And it'll be like 2 questions. That's it. Would you recommend this stream to somebody else? Would you write this series and X, Y, Z? But I'll also see if I can figure out where everybody's coming from, because it's quite difficult to figure out what the right time is to catch people in different locations and so on. I'll wave back to you like a fellow idiot. I'm an idiot too. I'll wave back to you, Gareth. That's okay. In fact, where are we? I think Liverpool is over there. I'll wave up. Assuming you're in Liverpool. Is over there. Anyway, the subject of today's live stream is basically we're going to continue on and hopefully complete the create a business service with Node.js using Visual Studio Code tutorial. So let me just switch to my main scene here. There we go, and you just should see the title at the top. Continuation of the CAPM Node.js bookshop tutorial. So there we go, we're going to start. I've got my keycaster going for Srikanth and others. I've changed my font in the, I'll make it a little bit bigger, in the terminal to that wonderful 3270 font. Maybe I want to change it to the slightly narrow one, in fact. So let's just have a quick look. Where are we? Profiles, text, change font, narrow. Yes, I think we'll have. Does that make any difference? Yeah, it doesn't really make any difference. There we go. Anyway, that's for the next one, isn't it? So let's just do that. Have a new one there. That's a little bit better, isn't it? Okay, fine. So let's go to the project. And in fact, what we had last time was a whole load of stuff in package.json, and we also had created the CDS service, and also this sort of implementation as well. This sort of, pre-data implementation. What are we on here? For the world, for the win, well, it could be anything, I suppose, Gary. For the win. Oh, I see. Oh, I can't say that on live stream, can I? F asterisk asterisk asterisk. No, it could be, I suppose, depending on your day, how your day's been going. But to be honest, there's a couple of things that happened since we were doing this last time. We had that interview with Christian, which I really enjoyed. Oh, great. I'm glad you're trying Ranger. Now, Pete, yeah, Ranger, I do like Ranger. It's available for Linux and Mac OS. It may be available for Windows. I don't know. But anyway, two things have happened, or a number of things have happened since we did this last time, which was we had that interview with Christian where he took us through some stuff. We've also had that REPL live stream on Wednesday, but also since last Friday, hey, morning, John. Since last Friday, we have seen that CDS has now been updated. So in fact, let's just quit out of here. If you look in that particular version of the My Bookshop, which we started a couple of weeks ago, and we've got here a version of CDS. In fact, CDS minus V, we've got 3.5. Okay, so the version inside that project, let's go back in there again actually, inside the project, Livestream CAPM My Bookshop, CDS version is 3.0.0. But on Friday, Christian, he told us the news. He was going to press the red button and is now updated it to CDS version 3.5. And with that, there's a number of changes. And I've been looking a little bit at the changes. I've not really had much time, to be honest. There's a few things that make the debugging mechanism a little bit easier in VS Code. And also, just to refresh our memories about what we did with this tutorial, I thought it'd be quite nice to start again and just go through it, especially for folks like Gareth and John. Great to see you on the live stream. It's fantastic. So we might as well start from scratch. It won't take us long. We'll get through the first steps very quickly. So without further ado, let's do that. Let's go into my projects directory. By the way, I've got lots of shortcuts here. For those who have not seen previous live streams, I've been tweaking my... thanks, John. Yeah, it's glad to have you here as well. I've been tweaking my sort of environment, my setup. And I've got all sorts of shortcuts that I build into Ranger, I build into my bash shell through the alias mechanism, and I'm also sharing all that stuff on all that configuration on GitHub. So, for example, when I want to change the title of my live stream episode, the title that appears sort of in the top of this thing here, where it says. This episode, continuation of the CAPM Node Bookshop tutorial, for example, I just type in LSE. So let's just show you that. In fact, LSE, there we go, XXX. And that actually should change. There we go, it changes straight away. It's a really nice setup. Anyway, I'm going to just undo that and go out of there. So I've got all sorts of sort of shortcuts as well. So P will take me to my projects and so on. And I can also look at my Vim configuration and change that and everything. So have a look, in fact, have a look at, what's it called? I've got my .vim configuration. So my Vim configuration is in here. And I've got my scripts configuration, in this one, including scripts for Ranger, and that stupid, I'd reassigned ls, which is the list command, this list files command, to something else, and I was like, what's going on? Anyway, so I keep this up to date 3 days ago. That's a really good point, Mark. I've got different environments as well, but I'm trying to sort of come together on a set of configuration that will work at least, what's the lowest common denominator for my environments. And my environments are basically Mac OS, Linux and Chrome OS, which effectively is also Linux underneath. So it does work for me. If you have to use Windows as well, then that may work for you if you use the Linux subsystem, which I've not done. Hey Riley, good morning, good early morning, Riley. Amazing. Are you at home? If so, that's amazing that you're up this late or this early. That's fantastic. So anyway, I've got all that there if you want to have a look. I'm finding it super useful, and I'm becoming a little bit more efficient. It's one of the things I said in one of the last Monday morning thoughts things I did. I wanted to sort of up my Vim foo and everything besides. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll go into the live stream folder and let's get rid of the bookshop thing and start again. Okay, so we'll do that because it will bring other people up to speed, like John and like Gareth. That's great to have you on board, and we'll see. So we've already got CDS installed, as we can see here, and in fact, let's have a look here. CDS, npm list global SAP CDS, information about that. What's going on? Oh, there we go. Yeah, 3.5.0. And we can see info. Remember, if you want to find out more about how to use this sort of stuff, look at the live stream episode 1, which is the second episode, of course, which will tell you all about sort of the powers of NPM and everything. Thanks, John. That's a great tip. This is exactly what I want to see. I'm learning from you as much as you're learning from me, so it's fantastic. So anyway, there's the latest version, and you can see that the dependencies are also a little bit updated if you remember some of the versions from last time. So we're going to start by saying, here we go, we've already installed the Visual Studio Code extension last time, and actually that hasn't been updated yet, so we're still at 1.0.36, which we'll see shortly. So we're going to start. We're going to initialize a new CAP model, CDS init, my bookshop. We'll keep the same naming convention because it's just easier for our brains. We know we're not tracking anything that's changed. I really like this 3270 font from Ricardo Banfi. Really, really nice on my terminal. Anyway, okay, so we've got a project created. Let's go into that as well now, and let's actually just bring up code and edit that in code. I'm going to make that again over here. Let's just explore what we've got. So this is what's generated when you do a CDS init. We got a list .vs code. So these are files specifically, obviously, for VS Code, and we'll look at these shortly. Actually, we have a CDS.js, and we have a launch.json. And I was playing around with those this morning after my run. We did a debugging thing on Wednesday in the live stream, and things have changed slightly, so we'll get debugging working with this version of CDS as well. The launch.json is, if you look into the documentation for VS Code in the launch section and the way you can sort of launch apps in different ways, really, really powerful. I'm a big Vim fan. Vim is my number one editor, and it always will be, but I think VS Code is fantastic. And we've got our node modules here, which we sort of looked at in the third episode 2, and we can see here that we've got the at SAP modules, we've got the CDS module, for example, and inside there, remember, we've got our common CDS, which is a list of sort of common building blocks that we explored a little bit last time. Now, I think some of you, including Fred, for example, suggested we do a bit of a deep dive on this. So maybe the next sort of occasional midweek live stream, we'll do a deep dive on what this is all about and just understanding a little bit more about the philosophy behind it and so on. Because I think it's a really nice, simple, but powerful approach to keeping the core things consistent across projects. Okay, so what else have we got? In fact, I'm going to leave my mouse. I'm trying to practice with VS Code, not using my mouse. So I'm going to go back to the Explorer with Command 0, as you can see down there in the keycaster thing. Let's go back up here to well, we've got nothing else. The README is actually really good. It's got all sorts of stuff, and it's almost like a different version, or slightly different version of the tutorial we've got. So it's pretty nice there. Anyway, what we need to do is let's make that a little bit smaller again. Just go down here, and where are we? There we go. And define our first service. So we're going to say, okay, go and create SRV cat service.cds. So SRV is a convention. One of the beautiful things about this whole model is that things are convention driven. So by convention, you have your database definitions in a folder called DB, your service definitions in a folder called SRV, and your app definitions, as in your UI, if you want to build a UI on top, in a folder called app. Difference between database and service. The database is basically the data definitions and the persistence stuff that gets generated from that. And then, of course, you've got your sort of, your normalized set of entities and the relationships between them in DB. But then you have different views and different ways of looking at that data model for different purposes. Maybe for role-based purposes, admin or general user or whatever. Or different apps may have different requirements to view things in different ways and have fewer fields exposed or more fields exposed or whatever. So that's why I have the concept of services in general, and of course the services that we're all familiar with. From an SAP development environment in Cloud Platform, mostly is going to be OData, and we get OData service stuff out of the box. Anyway, and then the app, we'll leave the app till later. We're not going to build a UI on this right now, but that's where it would go. Okay, so it's going to ask us to create this cat service, catalog service.cds. So I'm going to do that. And again, because we're catching up, I'm just going to copy that and go into here, and I'm going to go and add. One of the nice things is you can say new file, and if you specify a folder name, it doesn't exist, it will create it for you. That's quite nice. Cat service.cds, go straight in there, paste that in and save it. Okay, we've done this last time, so look at the live streams recordings from last time if you haven't seen this. And that's that. We're not going to run that because what we're going to do is do the mock data. We're going to straight in there right now. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go across here and I'm going to create a new file called, no, we don't want that. We want in the service folder, a new file called cat-service.js. Now, again, this is convention. If we have a file of the same name in JavaScript, the same name as the CDS definition file, then when we run it, and we'll see that shortly, it will say, oh, there's an implementation that sort of overrides or enhances the basic service, so I'm going to use that. So we'll see that happen in a minute. So here's our service. No, in fact, let's go to 1 and let's get rid of that. That's Command B to get rid of the Explorer, or this sort of left-hand side thing. And we can see that we've got this sort of node module type thing. I brought some chocolate in to sort of treat myself halfway through the session, but I know that I'm talking so much that I won't be able to chew and talk at the same time, so I can't even eat it. I'm going to put it over there so I can't see it. I'm going to have some water instead. And as you can see here, and we looked a little bit at these different mechanisms, .on and .before and .after, in the live stream on Wednesday when we looked at the node REPL and we looked at debugging. So have a look at that live stream to find a little bit more about what this is all about. I mean, you can sort of figure out by looking at it. And one of the beauties of ES6, which is the ECMAScript 6 version of JavaScript 2015, is that you can write JavaScript that's a lot easier to read, in my personal opinion, than traditional pre-ES6 JavaScript. So you don't have the sort of the cumbersome function keywords. So on the read of books, spit out this instead. Okay, so you can sort of imagine that exactly what this is doing. So it's going to spit out these 4 records. Okay, so that's fine. We'll save that. And in fact, while we're here, we'll just change this because this function definition. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks for following. If you're not following already, John and the new folks, just follow, and then you can easily get notifications about next live streams and so on from Twitch. It's quite nice. And of course, my follow count goes up, which is obviously the main point, or not. So what we're going to do here is, and for those not familiar, this is a fat arrow function definition, and it's a single expression. So actually, you don't even need the curly braces denoting the block in a single expression fat arrow function definition. This is just whammo, return this array, return this list. But actually, we want to do two things now. I'm going to say open curly brackets for the block, console.log hello live stream team. There we go. And then I'm just going to return that. There we go. So now we've got two things here, and we can sort of, play around with debug, and, for example, a breakpoint there on line 13. Now, Ronnie, Ronnie, are you here today? I didn't see Ronnie, but Ronnie pointed out, and also I think Maxi, you pointed out, didn't you? There's a nice plugin that I'm going to try next time for VS Code and Twitch, which allows you folks to point to, thanks John for following, to point to certain lines in my VS Code, and it will highlight them. It's like, amazing. And there's also, of course, what we talked about already, the live share that I'm looking forward to trying out with one of you victims, volunteers, maybe to do some of this sort of together on a future stream. So think about if you want to, play around with that and come on this live stream with me, and give me a shout. If you want to do that, give me a shout on Twitter and we'll sort of arrange it. Okay, so we've got that here, and we've got now, so we've got a catalog service definition, and that definition, it's here. This sort of includes direct entity definitions, okay, and relationships between them. Okay, yeah, use it for code reviews. That would be really nice to sort of try a little bit of code review here as well, wouldn't it, John? So maybe just have a think about this. This is as much your live stream series as it is mine. So have a think about what you want to cover, in the SAP dev world generally. Maybe we want to do some sort of code review type thing. Learn, practice more sort of that sort of developer workflows in the context of what we're doing in the in the SAP developer space. So yeah, suggestions are more than welcome. So we've got a service definition which, quote unquote, normally wouldn't contain ordinarily data definitions. The data definitions would be contained in the DB folder, in a file in the DB folder, and this would be almost like a view on those data definitions, and we'll see how that sort of works out shortly. But for now, this is the simplest thing that could possibly work. So we've got nothing in the DB folder, nothing up my sleeve type thing. So let's have a look. So it says here CDS run. So let's try that. Now again, those are all saved. That's right. Now we're going to use a shortcut to get to the integrated terminal, which I've got to set to control backtick. When I get my new keyboard, the backtick's in a different place, so I'm wondering how that's going to work. But anyway, I think it must be on a layer or something. For those of you who don't know, I'm really into mechanical keyboards. If you're using mechanical keyboards as well, I'd love to find out what you're using. I'm using a Vortex Race 3. I've got an An Pro 2 on order with brown, Cherry MX brown. This has got Cherry MX blue, that's why it's a little bit loud. That's what I like. So we're going to do CDS run. Okay, let's see what happens. Well, in fact, I'm going to do a Shift Control Z to sort of maximize the terminal, integrated terminal display. And I think there's a little bit of difference between, in fact, let's Control C, that CDS version, CDS-V, for example. Yeah, this is CDS 3.5.0, and there's an extra log output there, which we can see, which is serving static resources from .app, okay? There's some really nice stuff that's coming along with 3.5 and 3 and above. Morning, Manuel. Thanks for joining, which we'll maybe look at, a little bit later when we've got this under our belt. So we can see on the third line here of the log, serving catalog service @catalog, the implementation for the catalog service is in cat service. So it's basically saying I'm using catservice.js as an implementation of the catalog service. Okay, so if we now go to, and again you can in VS Code and Mac OS, and I'm sure it's on Linux as well and Windows. I'm going to hold down Control, hit that there, and it'll open that. So we're all familiar with that. That's cool. And we've got here our books, which is great. And we've got here our authors, which is also great. These are being served from the implementation. So we can now go into the implementation and put a breakpoint, hopefully, on here and restart restart the service but in debug mode. So let's just try that as it stands, as we've generated it, and see what happens first of all. As we saw on Wednesday, we've got this debug, start debugging, F5. I'm going to do that. And there we go. It sort of doesn't work as it stands, okay? Let me just maximize that. Where we go? There we go. Yeah, then maximize that. Let me do that again, so we can see what happens. It sort of starts up, and then that's weird. Starts up and then dies. Now I've been hacking around a little bit this morning, trying to figure out what's going on, and a solution that I found. If we have a look at the CDS.js inside of the .vs code. In fact, let's look at launch.json first. Launch.json is as it stands, as it's been sort of generated from the CDS init. We're not going to change that. I used to have to add a launch configuration here for debugging, but I think what I did this morning was go into here, go into here, and let's get rid of that for a second. Const CDS equals require. We're going to just require the CDS package, the CDS module. There we go, and save that. Now let's try it. There we go. So that's all you need to do in CDS 3.5. There may be becoming a 3.5.1 to enhance this a little bit. But for CDS 3.5, what I'm finding I'm having to do here is just modify that a little bit, because this is the thing that the debugging configuration launches to launch CDS, and it wasn't working before. So now we're back where we were, but we've got this red line at the bottom saying, oh, we're in debug mode, warning, danger, Will Robinson. And let's just go back to our, let's put that over here again. Let's go back to our output, our browser, and refresh. In fact, we did have a breakpoint there. So let's see, it's on authors. Let's refresh now. And there we go. So this is still spinning. This used to be called, when the web was young, and I used to use a browser called Trello, and then of course Viola, and then Netscape Navigator. This thing was called a throbber, and it used to be sort of, quite large here on the right hand side. A throbber, isn't that a good name? I think I quite like that. Anybody remember throbber? By the way, you're all very quiet. I hope you're all still there and everything. So shout if there's any questions, or if you want us to go in a slightly different direction. Emmanuel, every time I see your user ID, I think, oh, I do owe Emmanuel a blog post about my hardware and software setup here. That is coming soon. I just need to get the right amount of tuits, as they say. So anyway, we're in debug mode, so we can sort of inspect things in the debug console. We saw a little bit on Wednesday, so I'm not going to go through this in too much detail because you can watch the Wednesday live stream replay. But we can see here that we can do anything here really. But in fact, let's not go to debug right now because we've done that already. So let's just get rid of that and just continue. And there we go. There's our output. Okay, Marks, thanks for joining. Even if you joined just for a little bit, that really makes my day. So enjoy the meetings. We'll enjoy the live stream, probably more than you. Haha. No, just kidding. So there we go. So we're almost caught up now to where we were before. So we're going to add a data model and adapt the service definition. This is what I was talking about before, which is that actually we want to move the data definition out of the service into its own space. So it says here, add the following code to the data model.cds file. Firebird. Oh, Firefox. Okay. Ah, yes, Firefox. My first browser, I guess. Well, that's not even. Yeah, my first browser was a text-based browser called W3M. Oh no, it was Lynx actually, and then W3M. Yes. Okay. So what we want to do here is get rid of cat service. Let's actually kill everything. Let's go back to the terminal. Kill this this thing here. There's the debug output. Morning, Michelle. There's Michelle, by the way. Hello. Say hello. And we're going to do this now. So let's just do this manually in here, so we can sort of see what we're doing. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Let me know if that's too small, but at least we can see both things on either side. So what we want to do is, let's make that a little bit bigger, go to the Explorer, go into cat service, which is here, and where are we? Oh, cat service.js, no, we don't want that. And remove this stuff, okay? So let's just go here and get this, go over to here and create a new folder called DB, and in there we're going to have a data model.cds file, okay? So we got DB, where's that gone? I think there's a little bug in VS Code. I've just created a folder called DB. Where's my terminal? There it is, DB, and the data model's there, but it's not showing in the Explorer, which is really interesting. Maybe I have to do a refresh or something. I don't know. Yeah, I've noticed that this morning and last night. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. There's our data model. We're going to put that into, oh no, not that, sorry. We're going to put that into our data model. I don't know what I'm doing here. There we go, right, so that we've now moved the definition of the books entity and the authors entity and the orders entity. There is a refresh icon. I don't click icons, I don't use the mouse. What are you talking about, Pierre? No, just kidding. So we've moved now, or we should be able to, well, moving them using the mouse now. We should now have a look in the cat service CDS. So let's go to cat service CDS, and that's empty. Okay, so what we want in there is this stuff here. In fact, let's just copy that and just bring it in here. There we go. So we've got now our cat service as a view, a projection, or a series of projections on the individual entity definitions from DB data model. So here's our data model here, and we've namespaced it. We looked at this a couple of episodes ago. This obviously prefixes everything in this file with the my.bookshop namespace. The second line, using country managed, that brings the stuff from the common.cds, which we briefly looked at inside the node modules directory. And then we got these definitions. So the definition of books, for example, is going to be my.bookshop.book. So when we go to cat service CDS, using my.bookshop as my from, go up one folder, ... DB data model, then we can refer to the books. What's happening is it's referring to the books entity definition. Yep, should be command palette. Thank you, Ronnie. That's cool. When we go to the, that's referring to the books entity definition in the data model. So we sort of move now the data definitions, the static. Oh, I see. Refresh. Perfect. Let's try that. Actually, let's go that. P refresh. Refresh, explore. Ah, awesome. So I was sort of slightly in my brain resistant to, oh, refresh, why am I looking at the command palette? But Ronnie, superstar, and Pierre as well. Thank you. So we've learned something now. I've learned something. So I can go command P, refresh, bang, and it's refreshed the Explorer. So now we've got it in there. I'm sure they used to appear straight away. So maybe that's something that's changed in the second January release. Ronnie, you had you were talking about the second edition of the January release. It fixed some bugs, didn't it? The January release came out like a week ago, and then another version came out like 2 days ago or something. Maybe it was that. Maybe I'm just dreaming that it always sort of automatically appeared. But anyway, we've got now our cat service.cds. We've got our data model CDS, so it's a little bit more normalized in terms of a service definition with projections and also annotations. Thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, so I'm not going mad. Yeah. Well, no madder than usual. So we've got these. There we go. Yeah, we've got these annotations as well, which we haven't really talked much about yet. These are CDS, CAP service annotations specifically, but they're sort of part of the larger family of annotations that, of course, power Fiori elements, right? So we'll look at those another time, but you can sort of tell what these do, right? Obvious. Anyway, let's go back to the tutorial. And we've got now this separation. So save your files, yes, blah, blah, blah. So now it's time, now we've got the data model in the right place. Now it's time to actually use the power of CDS, the CDS command, to generate the SQL DDL, the SQL data definition language, and deploy that to a persistence layer. And the persistence layer, we might both be. Let's go mad together. Yes, exactly. To deploy that to the persistence layer, and in this case, we're using SQLite. SQLite is available for all platforms, as it says here. If you're on Windows, you've got to install it, but I think it comes as standard on macOS and Linux. So let's go across here, and in fact, why don't we bring in the package.json to see what happens to it actually, because it's quite cool. You can see what happens when we do the npm install -d, which is it's telling us to do that here. So npm install SQLite 3, which is the npm package, -d, which is a dev dependency. So let's do that now. Let's go into the terminal. There we go. Okay, so npm install SQLite 3 -d or -- dev dependency. That will install the SQLite node package via npm, and because we're saying -d, it will put the dependency not in the dependencies sort of up here, but also but instead it will put in the dev dependencies. We talked a little bit about dev dependencies versus sort of normal dependencies, runtime dependencies in a previous live stream. So watch that. I'm planning, by the way, let me know in the comments here right now if you find this a useful addition. I'm planning to write a little blog post on a live stream recording basis. So for every live stream, I'll write a blog post with annotations as to what we covered, the details, and maybe some links to things for further reading, but most importantly with a link. I think there is a link here. Save dev. Thanks, Maxi. No, that's cool. Thank you very much. So with a link to, with a time with minutes and seconds to get to the part in the live stream that talks about that. Let me know in the comments now whether you find that would be useful or whether you think that was a waste of time. So we've added the npm module SQLite 3, and now it's time to do something very exciting, which is to deploy to SQLite. Now, one thing we did do in the first or second episode, and I remember Fred making a comment about it, which was quite cool, is to actually have a look at what the data definition language for SQL looks like. Because if we look at the CDS command possibilities, we can compile individual models, right? And we can. So if I say CDS db data model.cds, it will compile it and output this stuff, this core schema notation, which is like what I said on Wednesday, almost like the abstract syntax tree for those sort of language nuts in our live stream. In fact, I was making a coffee this morning and like, what am I going to call us as a collective? I was thinking crew, because that's what people use, but it sounds a little bit sort of, I don't know. So come up with some suggestions as to what I should call us, the live stream crew, the live stream participants, which is a bit boring, the live stream people. Anyway, so links would be great. Thanks, Emmanuel. Thanks, now, Pete. Okay, that's good. So anyway, this is the sort of the core representation of the model definition. We can also, however, look what's going to be generated and deployed to a persistence layer by saying to SQL. I think we looked at this a time ago. So that is actually what's going to be used for our deployment. In fact, it's going. I think. cat service.cds to. There's a shortcut. I love this shortcut. We can shortcut -2 to. That is the equivalent of 2. I think. Yes, that's right. Which I think is a wonderful shortcut. It's almost like, completely, over the top. But anyway, so this is the SQL data definition language stuff that's going to get generated for our implementation, because it not only contains the entity definitions, which are sort of standalone, but it also, as you can see down here, it also contains views. And look at the names of the views as well. So the views are effectively what we talked about, sort of projections, views upon the tables with various, well, we haven't really got any restrictions here, but with various restrictions if we were to put those into the service. The audience, Simon, yeah, that's a good one. But I think audience to me sort of suggests that it's a one-way broadcast, and I'm getting so much input from you and so much good vibes and everything that audience to me is like too much one way. It's just me going blah 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 blah. Well, and maybe I'm doing that. Maybe that's family, flock, mob, family. Sorry, I shouted there. Sorry, Michelle. I'm quite excited. So anyway, this is the data definition that's going to be deployed to our persistence layer. So let's do that now. CDS deploy -2, and then we can specify the persistence type, SQLite, and also then the file in this case, because SQLite is basically a SQL database that uses files as the storage system. Really cool, very simple, very useful. So let's do that. Let's just copy that actually. Copy there, and let's do that here. CDS deploy to SQLite DB my bookshop. So it's updated the package.json. That's interesting. Let's have a look at the package.json, and we can see here it's now added something I'm going to call a stanza, because I did classics university. It's added a JSON stanza that describes our database, our backend database, and where it is, for example. Is the namespace my.bookshop statement in the data model CDS file the link to the underlying DB? Really good question, Gary. No, it's almost like the other way around. So we've created the database, and if we'd have said my.banana, the name. In fact, let's go back to here, and let's do the there we go. Let's do the data model. So you can see that whatever we define as the namespace in where are we? Data model. Thanks for reminding me about the Command Shift P, because I'm also remembering now Command P for the file chooser rather than going to the Explorer. So if we now change that to, for example, banana, which is my favorite test keyword of all time, and I do that again. Oops, there we go. Where are we? Oh, there we go. My banana. Okay, so it's almost like when you're writing, code in Java, for example. You have namespaces. You have namespaces also in all sorts of things. It's just a way of prefixing and making that stuff your own, effectively. So that's all it is. It's not any specific link to the underlying database. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Your favorite test name is chicken soup. Yes, I did say you were odd, Chris, and that just sort of underlines what I was thinking. Package names in Java. Yes, package names in Java. I prefer Closure on the JVM, but anyway, that's another story.
Yes. Thanks, John. Yes, banana. Exactly. Let's change that. In fact, before I forget, let's change that back to
where are we? Data model. Is the undo still there? Yes, it is. Amazing. Okay, good. So now we've got our data model and service deployed to the persistence layer. So let's have a quick look, actually. And I think it tells us that we can do this as well in the tutorial. SQLite. I've still got this problem with my shell. Anyway, let's go SQLite 3, and it's the database is in DB my bookshop. And if we do help.help, you get all sorts of too much help. What we can see here is .dump, and we can see the data definition that's in this SQLite database. We can also, and I think I mentioned this last time, if we look at the extensions in VS Code, I've got an extension called, where is it? SQLite, okay? So install the SQLite extension. Let's get rid of the, there we go. And it will allow us to explore the databases in VS Code as well. Exactly. It's not only SQL databases. This is again, exactly as Pierre says. The goal for the application programming model is to be persistence layer agnostic. So I'm expecting to see support for NoSQL databases too. And that's also why it's important for us to really understand and embrace CDS as a definition language, as an abstraction layer, because it's not specific to or linked to SQL specifically. Anyway, with the use of this VS Code SQLite extension, what we can do is we can go into the Explorer. We can go into the Explorer and have a look at the database, which is there, and say, right-click, open database in Explorer. Did I do that right? Open database in Explorer. Oh, there. Oh, and the Explorer is, where is it? I'm going to do that refresh. Where's the database Explorer? Open database Explorer. What's going on? Oh, there it is. Is it outline? No. I don't know what's happening with my. Let's just kill that for a second. My VS Code is playing up a little bit, but anyway, let's not get too worried about that. Open in Database Explorer. It's still not working. It was working this morning, but anyway, looking for why the Database Explorer view command palette. Yep, Database Explorer. My bookshop. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Thank you. The command. Thank you again. The family, the live stream family has helped me out again. This is exactly what I want. I could almost say I made that problem up so you would help me, but I didn't. I was really struggling. So here we go. So we can see, for example, the my bookshop open in Database Explorer, and there is the. Where's it gone? It's gone again. Am I going crazy? Anyway, okay, let's not do that. Database Explorer should be one of these little things here. Open editors, my bookshop, Database Explorer. Okay, maybe I'll refresh that. Okay, you've got the same problem, Maxi. So maybe there's been an update and it's a little bit broken, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it worked for me recently too. Okay, that's cool. So we can see here that we've got our persistence layer now defined with the views from the service and the tables from the data model there. So let's go and add some initial data. 847, we're almost there. In fact, I can't believe it. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. We don't have to finish it. We got a lot further, but the whole point is to go a little bit slower, right? So now what we can do to pre-populate our database is to use CSV files. As you know, for many of us starting out projects, we want some test data, and we might have to write some SQL to inject that data into the database. With this mechanism, you don't have to. You can just supply some CSV files in the appropriate place, called with the appropriate file names. Notice that this file name is probably that name for a reason, and yes, you'd be right to guess that. So let's just do that. Let's go into here. Let's go and create that file. Let's go into the Explorer and look at that, my bookshop. In the DB folder, let's create a subfolder called CSV. I'm going to do it this way so we can still, we don't have to do a refresh. I'm going to create a new file called my.bookshop-authors in capitals .csv. And as you can tell, my.bookshop refers to the namespace and authors refers to the entity definition. Okay, so by convention, the data in this CSV file ends up in the my.bookshop.authors table, okay, when we deploy. That's really nice. So let's do the same sort of thing. Let's go over here and let's do the same sort of thing with a file called my.bookshop books.csv. And let's copy that. I'm curious as to why they're also using semicolons, but anyway, semicolons also works for CSV. But anyway, okay, there we go. So we've got now our two files in a CSV folder, again, which is convention based. So when we now do a deploy, let's do that. CDS deploy. It gives us the message here, initializing from CSV files at DB CSV. Let's go into SQLite, DB my bookshop, select star from in fact, what was it again? Dump. There we go. Yeah, select. Oh, look at that. There's the DDL now, which has the insert statements, which is effectively what I wanted to show. But select star from my bookshop authors. And there we go. There's the data in there, which now means that we can remove, and I think it tells us to do this as well, remove the code in our service implementation, which had this sort of static output. So let's go to cat service service.js and delete that. By the way, that was capital G, delete to the bottom of the file in Vim keyboard commands. And now we can run it. So there's no implementation, and we shouldn't see that impl message when we run it. So if we now do a CDS run, okay, yes, we haven't deleted the file, but we've deleted the contents of the file. Oh, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It should work okay. So let's now go to localhost and see if there's any books. Yes, there are. Okay, so it's not found any methods, any dot on methods. So obviously it's not sort of overriding anything or adding anything. So now it's getting that data from the database. Database from the database. And similarly for authors and so on. There we go. That's really nice. Okay, so fine. Where are we in the tutorial? It says to use Postman. Yeah, we can use Postman as well. I think, why not? Why not? If you're not familiar with Postman, in fact, you don't have to download this file. This is a file of Postman configuration. Let's just get the link to that actually, and then open Postman. I think I might have tried this earlier this week. By the way, how are we doing for time? How are we doing for interest? Have you all fallen asleep? Have you got any questions? Let me know. Have a think about what we want to do next. Bookshop, let's get rid of that. Where's delete? There, delete. And now we can say import from link. There we go, put the link in there, bang. Wonderful, there's the link, imported straight from that little thing there. So now in the bookshop, we can go to CRUD, for example, and get books. There we go, bang. In fact, there we go, there's the books thing there. And we can also get individual books, for example. This is just OData, everybody's familiar with OData. Nappy, yeah, good. That's a thumbs up with a goatee. I need to grow my goatee again. Send, and we get catalogue books, brackets 201, and we get Wuthering Heights, which of course is a wonderful book, which I haven't read, to be honest. But anyway, so there's good. That's good. And so now we're going to add some custom logic. Because we've got a few minutes left, and we can do a little bit of debugging, and we can also look what the results of creating orders are. We can look at the orders in the backend database as well. So let's do that. Let's very quickly now go and re-implement some JavaScript for the catalog service. Let's copy that file. Let's just let's do it quickly. Here's the catalog service. Let's put that in there, and we can see in the catalog service implementation in JavaScript. We define a module. We use ES6 destructuring, which is really nice to pull out. If you saw the live stream on Wednesday when we were looking in the REPL, we looked at the entities, didn't we? We connected we loaded CDS, we connected to our database, and we then had in this sort of singleton we call CDS, we could look at the entities. Okay, with cds.entities. This is exactly what's happening here. So the REPL is a beautiful way of getting a little bit closer with your fingers to what actually you will end up writing in any sort of custom implementations in CAP. And CDS entities returns a map, okay, or object, with 3 elements in this case, because we've got 3 entities: books, authors, and orders. And the keys of that map are books, authors, and orders. And what this is doing here is a really beautiful shorthand for pull out the value of the books property and assign it to a books constant. Okay, have a look at destructuring in ES6 and you'll understand what that is in a little bit more detail and better than I can explain right now. And we can use that in line 11 here, when we want to update books. So of course, when we get an order creation incoming request, we want to have a look to see if there's enough stock and everything, and update accordingly. And then we can say sold out HTTP status code 409. How cool is that? And of course, we've also got some discount on a read. This is shorthand. We saw on Wednesday, this each is shorthand for, what am I doing? It's shorthand for a special version of this callback, which gets called for each of the books, rather than a single callback which gets called for all the books in the data that's returned. So we've got that implementation now. Let's go back to our integrated terminal, because it's going to tell us to run it again, and we can then use Postman to look at the stock of book 201, and then we'll use Postman. Then we'll use Postman to post some orders and have a look what happens. Okay, so let's move this down a little bit here. Yeah, there we go. So here we go. In fact, why don't we run it in debug mode with F5? Because why not? Because debug. Let's open. Where's Postman? Where's it gone? Oh, where did I put it? Over here. Here's Postman. Let's get rid of all this stuff, close all tabs, and don't save. Go into bookshop and go into books. Okay, so we've got a stock of 12 for Wuthering Heights. Okay, and there we go. There's catalog books. And what we'll do now is we'll place an order for, let's say, 10 Wuthering Heights. So orders, and one thing we saw when we explored a little bit of the common.cds is that we saw a comment next to the UUID definition, the UUID type. Let's just have a quick look at that now. Where was it? Node modules, SAP, CDS, common.cds. Yeah, here we go. UUID automatically filled in. So basically, a value that comes in for a property that's defined by UUID can have a UUID, and of course, it will be used. But if it hasn't got any value, a UUID will be generated. And I think when we installed CDS the first time, we looked at all the different, well, not all of them, but we looked at a lot of the NPM modules that were installed. One of the modules, a standard NPM module that was installed, was a module called UUID, which generates UUIDs. Guess where it's used? Here. Notice as well, there was actually a question in this tutorial that I said actually, which is why is the key ID of the orders entity defined as a UUID type, as opposed to an integer type for the author's key ID and an integer type for the book's key ID? Let me know in the comments here if you know why that might be. Okay, there's, logically it makes sense to define this one as UUID because ... Why? Anyway, let's just go back here and let's post this, post and orders. Let's look at the body. We've got headers here, we've got content type application JSON, so we're sending application JSON, and we've got the body here. Let's order 9 because 9 is a nice number. I saw a ranked list of programming languages, top 9 languages to do something. I can't remember. Why 9? Anyway, so let's send that and see what happens. There we go. We've got a post down here of catalog orders, and we got the results 201 created. So now when we look at the books and relook at that, we get now, what was it before? It was 12 minus 9 equals 3. So it's working. Okay, we can we've got 2 more minutes. We can debug that. Let's go into the implementation, cat service.js, and let's put a breakpoint there and do that again. Let's go back to our orders. Let's send 9 again. Of course, we've only got 3 left. That's right. That's it, Maxi. Top 9 languages for IoT. Oh, there we go. So now we've hit this breakpoint, and we can sort of start to explore. I mean, we'll maybe leave this till next time. Leave you in suspense at the end of this episode. That's what you do on TV, isn't it? So we can have a look to see what's the request. There we go. There's request.data. Oops, data. There we go. And there's the data that's coming in the request. So we've asked for 9, we've asked for this book ID, etc., etc. And notice as well, did we supply a UUID? No. So a UUID has been generated for us. And also notice that we're at the stage here where the UUID has already been generated. And now we can say, for example, what's the order amount, dot amount, which we can see there anyway. The order amount is 9. One thing I'll leave you with before we stop the live stream is that it's a really nice way of doing if we've got stock, then post the order, else don't post the order. That actually is implemented in the update command itself. Update books, set the stock to be stock minus whatever the amount is, so we're using a where clause in the SQL, effectively in SQL, but in the core query notation, CDS query notation, CQN, which we saw on Wednesday, to actually restrict this update to only work if we've got enough stock, if the stock is more than or equal to the order amount, as well as being if it's the right book. Anyway, with that bombshell, it's time to stop the live stream. Let me know in the comments, please, or let me know. I'm going to stop this live stream shortly, so let me know on Twitter, please, actively let me know on Twitter straight after this what you thought of this, whether you thought it was useful, what we want to do next time, and thank you so much for joining and making this interactive and helping me out with the command palette and everything. That's just what I was looking for. So have a great day, and I'll see you all on the next live stream. Bye.